Perfect. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Oswaldo Martinez. I'm the Energy Public Engagement Associate for Central Coast Community Energy. And today we will be talking about the new Central Coast Community Energy 2022 rate options for all of our existing customers. Before we talk about the rates, we do want to share a quick overview of Central Coast Community Energy. For the folks on the call who are not familiar with us yet, we'll proceed to talking about the two pricing options that customers have for their CCCE generation rates, which are set to kick in this January. You'll have until October the 31st to make a decision using the available resources at your disposal. After the walkthrough of the main topic, we'll briefly want to share updates on our upcoming energy portal and financial assistance resources. At the end, we'll be happy to answer any questions that the audience may have. We begin the overview on Central Coast Community Energy by explaining what type of agency we are. We are a government agency known as a Community Choice Aggregator, or a CCA in short. Cities and counties can come together and build a CCA with the purpose of sourcing the energy for their communities. The investor-owned utilities still deliver that energy to the customers, but a CCA can take over how and where that energy is generated. Assuming control over a piece of the energy revenue allows us to pay back dividends, if you will, or reinvest back into the community through energy incentives, rebates, and grants that help our customers make that transition to a clean energy future. To date, there are roughly 24 CCAs in California serving 11 million customers, which accounts for roughly 30% of the state's energy consumption. In Central Coast Community Energy's service area, as you see here, we serve roughly 33, or exactly, better said, 33 jurisdictions made up of cities and counties across the Central Coast, which means that we provide the electric generation service for these communities. In other words, we source the energy on behalf of the residents and the commercial customers that live in the communities that you see shaded in the darker green on the map. We work with PG&E to provide your shared service. We handle the generation component, which means that we source the energy on behalf of the residents and the commercial customers. PG&E still delivers it through their poles and wires, and they send one single bill containing charges from both Central Coast Community Energy and PG&E. Our customers can expect to see us appear on the first page of their bill, listed as generation charges from Central Coast Community Energy. We are not an additional charge. We simply replace the old generation charges that came from PG&E, since they are no longer sourcing your energy if you are in fact a customer of our agency. Here's another example that appears in your energy statement. You'll see a breakdown of the generation charges on the right. And you could also see a further breakdown of the charges coming from PG&E, whether that's a conservation incentive, transmission, or the distribution charges that you are paying for every month. Today, our Central Coast Community Energy generation rates have remained competitive with PG&E's generation rates. We typically apply a discount off of the rates such that customers are paying lower on their energy bills every month. Our current pricing structure follows PG&E's generation rates and applies a 2% discount. However, following PG&E's generation rates, as you see here on the screen, is not sustainable. We often have to make changes as many as 6 times a year to reflect the changes being made on the generation rates from PG&E. So to that end, we are creating a new set of CCCE generation rates that will no longer follow the PG&E generation rates, created with the goals of providing predictable rates, stable rates over a 3-year period, simpler rates, fair rates across all of the rate classes, and importantly, competitiveness, continued competitiveness by aiming for CCCE rates that are at a minimum 1% lower than PG&E's generation rates. That said, here are your 2 options. In other words, you can decide which CCCE price per kilowatt hour you would like us to apply to your electric generation charges. The first option or the default option would simply apply the new CCCE generation rates to your existing rate plan. For example, if you are on a time of use rate plan, we simply apply our new CCCE generation rates to the periods of your time of use rate plan, which would be from lower pricing, or the periods of lower pricing and the periods of higher pricing. The other option that you have is that you can opt to move to the seasonal flat rates, which will have one price per kilowatt hour in the summer and another price per kilowatt hour in the winter at any hour of the day. This again would only be applied to the generation charges on your bill. Both options will take effect on January of 2022, and you have until October 31st of this year to elect the seasonal flat rate option. I want to focus on residential customers first. Here's a closer look of the options that you have. Under the default rate, our aim was to keep the pricing simple. If you took a look at the rate sheet, which we will link in the chat and in the PowerPoint, you'll notice that the cost per kilowatt hour, the rate of your CCE generation charges, is the same for the new time of use rate plans that are available to all customers right now, with the exception of the electric vehicle rate plan. Alternatively, you can choose to move to the seasonal flat rates, which has one rate for the summer and another flat rate for the winter. As you see here, the summer rate is 8.4 cents and the winter rate is 8.0 cents per kilowatt hour. Again, this option is only available until October 31st of this year. Commercial customers, you have the same two options, but unlike in the previous residential slide, it's a little harder to simplify the information any further than this. However, the idea remains the same. You'll see similar CCCE rates for certain small to medium commercial rate plans. If you look at the rate sheet, you can also opt for the seasonal flat rates, which again is going to have one flat rate in the summer and another flat rate during the winter for your electric generation charges that come from Central Coast Community Energy. There are going to be those customers that delay their mandatory transition or are not required to participate in the statewide time of use transition. Mandated by the state, but it's administered by PG&E. The options that you have are the ones that you see here listed on the screen. The default option is to have our new CCCE generation rates be applied to the periods of your old time of use plan, or they could also be applied to your tiered rate plan known as E1. Your other option is to opt for the seasonal flat rates, which follow the same rule: one flat rate for the summer and one flat rate for the winter. The only exception here is that the traditional E1 tiered flat rate plan for customers will just have the default option available. That means we're pretty much going to be applying the new generation rates, the default generation rates, to your tiered rate plan. Another exception are the net energy metering customers. Net energy metering customers who transition to the seasonal flat rate will not be eligible to receive net surplus compensation, or NSC, for excess CCCE generation. Instead, NEM customers on the CCCE seasonal flat rate will receive a monthly credit for excess generation set at retail value, which can be applied to both generation and transmission cost of their energy bill. However, if you choose the default rate, you are eligible to receive net surplus compensation, which is set at 4.7 cents per kilowatt hour. We highly encourage you to speak with an energy advisor to evaluate your options, or you can attend the October webinars where we can take more time to answer your NEM specific questions. For customers on CARE, FARA, or medical baseline, you will be receiving a one-time bill credit of $30 from Central Coast Community Energy, which will appear on your February 2022 energy bill. It will be automatic, so you don't have to do anything to apply. Now we can begin with the overview of the cost comparison calculator that is on our webpage so that you can investigate which of the two CCCE service offerings benefits you the most. This tool takes data from your monthly usage and provides an estimate of your monthly and annual charges from Central Coast Community Energy's generation under each service offering. It's not designed to provide an exact estimate or recommendation from the agency, more so an idea of how much you would pay based on the available usage data that we have in your account. To use the tool, you just need to follow the three simple steps that you see here. You need to make sure that you have, first of all, your access to your PG&E bill, and you want to enter the first 10 digits of your PG&E account number. You also want to enter your last name exactly how it appears on your energy bill. And you want to enter your account's zip code as well. We do have help buttons located next to each field that show you where to find this information. And we also do have a Spanish button as well. If you can't find your account, first make sure that you did enter the information accurately. For example, you want to make sure that you entered the first 10 digits of your PG&E account. But if you still get the error message that you see here on the screen, or you simply can't remember your information, make sure to contact our call center who can walk you through the process and provide a calculation on your behalf. Just before we show you what the calculator results would look like, I want to just quickly share the additional choice that you have during the calculation. At Central Coast Community Energy, we have two energy mix options. We have 3C Choice, which is our default service offering or energy mix option. And then we have 3C Prime, which is our 100% renewable option. 3C Prime is only 0.8 of a penny more per kilowatt hour. Many customers opt into this energy mix because they have sustainability goals that they want to reach right away, for example. It could also be more affordable to pay the small premium versus outfitting your home or business with the solar system, for example. So once you enter your information correctly, here's an example of what you would say from using the calculator. A side-by-side comparison of the monthly cost and annual cost of CCCE generation under each option, as you see here. This is calculated by applying our new generation options to your existing rate plan. And if this encourages you to choose the seasonal flat rates, you can click on the button outlined in the yellow below, and it will take you to fill out a form online in order to opt into the seasonal flat rates. You can also use the 3C Prime button, which would just add 0.8 of a penny more for every kilowatt hour to the two pricing options that you see here, the default rate and the seasonal flat rates. The buttons below allows you to opt into 3C Prime, and then the buttons also allow you to opt into the seasonal flat rates. So it would be a two-layered or a two-step process if you want to go into 3C Prime and also select the seasonal flat rates. Quickly going back to the customers who delayed their transition or are not required to transition to the statewide time of use requirement, you may still be on a tiered rate plan known as E1. If you try to use a calculator, it will only produce a calculation of the default choice for your generation charges, because again, this plan is not eligible for CCCE's seasonal flat rates. There are two ways you can select the seasonal flat rates before October the 31st. We recommend calling the number on the screen here. That's our call center if you have multiple accounts. If you do want to do it on your own, you could fill out the form that we're linking here in the PowerPoint. We'll be sure to add it in the chat below as well. And you can go to that link. It takes you to a page. You fill out the form with your PG&E account information, and that's going to let us know that you want to go into the seasonal flat rates. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to my colleague, Jerry Strickland, who is going to provide us with some examples, some live examples of using the cost comparison tool.
Hi everyone, my name is Jerry Strickland. I'm an energy account specialist here at Central Coast Community Energy. And as Ozzy said, I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough of how to get to the calculator and what exactly you're going to see. So here I went to our company's website, 3cenergy.org. And on the first tab, Account and Services, if you scroll down or move your mouse down, you'll see Cost of Service Rate Structure. So go ahead and we can give that a click. Here, this is the web page where you're going to find a lot of the information that Oswaldo has gone over with us today. But if you want a refresher or to read a bit more, you can see it here. We've also got information on the workshops we have. But what I'm going to highlight right now is the link to the cost comparison tool. So we'll just go ahead and click this 2022 cost comparison tool. And here is the calculator. As Oswaldo said, you're going to need to enter a few pieces of information. We've got help buttons along the side here to assist. So first you'll need your account number, which can be found in the upper right-hand corner of your bill. As you're inputting your account number, just know you need the first 10 digits. If there is a dash and a number to follow, don't enter that, just the first 10 numbers. Then you can add in your last name, or if you have a business name, you can type in a portion of your business name and it needs to match what is on the bottom of the blue bill. And then lastly, the zip code of the service location. So you can also find this on, you can find the street address on the blue bill, that same bill where you pulled the account number. The zip code that enters has to accurately reflect this service address. Some customers have their bills sent different places, so please know that it needs to be the zip code that matches the premise. Oops, here we go. So I went ahead and put in my own account information. If you don't know that information, there's a button at the bottom of the calculator. Or I'm sorry, it tells you right here to contact our call center, and a local representative will walk you through what your options are and what the best option is for you. But here I have my information, so I will click next. And I am an ETOUC customer, which means I am eligible for both the default and the seasonal flat rate. So I could make my selection between the two of these. And then I can also click 3C Prime to see, well, what if I was on the default rate and the seasonal flat rate at 100% renewable energy? If you only want to choose the default rate, essentially at this point, you are done with your selection process. You do not need to submit a form or contact anyone. All of our customers will automatically be transitioned into the default rate if they don't make a selection after October 31st. But if you do want to make the seasonal flat rate your selection, you will need to select that option and continue with the prompts that way. So it will look a little bit different if you are a NIM customer. So a net energy metering customer will have a bit more pieces of data. It will show, just as the one before did, the renewable mix of the options, but also it will show what your summer monthly usage and winter monthly usage is on average. And then it will provide, you know, an estimated cost for those associated kilowatt hours. I do want to note that our NIM customers, and if they choose seasonal flat rate, instead of receiving a standard net surplus compensation, they will be receiving a monthly credit at retail value for every excess kilowatt hour that your system produces. And that credit can be applied to your generation as well as your transmission and distribution aspects of your energy bill. So if you have a large energy producing system, that's definitely something to take into consideration as you move forward. The third option I'm going to highlight as an example is an E1 customer will only see this the one default option, because as Ozzy explained earlier, you are on a tiered rate plan if you elected to stay on your E1 rate when PG&E had their transition to time of use. So you are not eligible for the seasonal flat rate. However, we do offer the default rate, which offers flexibility for our customers and is still a wonderful option. So Ozzy, with that, I'm going to stop sharing and pass it back to you.
Thank you so much, Jerry, for the walkthrough. We really appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next slide here. We want to just quickly display some of the resources that you do have available as a customer during this decision-making process that you each have. We do record our webinars. We post them on our website. We post them on YouTube and on our Spanish Facebook pages if those were webinars that we held in Spanish. We also have a frequently asked questions page that you can find on the link shown at the top. You can find it on our cost of service rate structure page that Jerry was referencing. You can also register for our upcoming educational webinar series by finding our events page. You could also find it on the rate page as well. And then finally, you can speak with an energy advisor who can walk you through this process and help you evaluate the best option for you. Or you can contact us by email if you prefer at northsupport@3ce.org if you prefer. So we are changing the topic here very briefly. I just want to provide a quick update on an upcoming data tool that will be launched to all of our customers, our residential and commercial. We will be releasing the phase 1 version fairly soon, which will allow customers to access their usage data at different intervals, download their PG&E invoices, and view their existing CCCE generation rates. As we collect feedback, we hope we can continue to integrate new functions to improve our communications with the customer in this energy portal. That could potentially include a function, for example, that tracks the status of your energy program applications, such as an electric vehicle application, since we tend to get a lot of calls from customers wanting to know the status of those applications. And then we want to just continue to share any financial assistance resources that are available from our partners. You can find them on our website. We have a page that's dedicated to sharing the most up-to-date financial assistance resources. This includes a new payment plan programs being expanded by the state and administered by your local utility. And lastly, here are the upcoming educational webinar series to help you help continue spreading the education around the new rate options from Central Coast Community Energy. We have a couple of them coming up in October. We invite you to attend. If you have more questions, if you know anybody who would be interested in attending these webinars, please encourage them to attend as well. And then we will have a Spanish one on October the 28th. That concludes our presentation. Feel free to jot down our contact information, our social media contact information as well. And at this point, we're happy to take any questions from the audience.
They said you have some questions in the Q&A. I'm not sure if it's either Susan or Jerry who's going to be reading those off to you.
Hi, Ozzy.
You want to start, Jerry? I'm answering questions in the Q&A.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Thank you.
Ozzy, Catherine asks, what are the benefits of joining 3C Prime?
Well, I would say the benefit is that you are supporting the agency's goals and sourcing from renewable energy. Right now, the default rate option or the default energy mix option for everyone is has roughly 31% renewable energy. So we're not quite there yet where we can offer renewable energy to all of our customers at this time. But if you choose to support 3C Prime, you are supporting the agency's efforts in sourcing renewable energy. It does come, like I said, it does come at 0.8 of a penny more for every kilowatt hour that is used than 3C Choice. There are no penalties for switching between the two. If you want to try out 3C Prime 1 month and go back to the 3C Choice offering, you have the freedom to do so. There's no penalties for switching.
The next question is from Jack Shu, asking about how accurate is the calculator. I'll answer this one, Ozzy. So Jack, we use your historical usage data, and the more usage information that we have for you as a customer, the more accurate it's going to be. So if you are a new customer who has been with Central Coast Community Energy for 3 months or so, realize that we don't have a lot of data to analyze for you as a customer. However, if you've been with us since 2018, we've got 3 years of usage data. So if you mentioned you're a NIM customer, if we're only with your summer usage data, that is an important note to recognize, is that we only have the amount of data as long as you've been a customer with us. Let's see, Ozzy. The next question that I see is, yes.
Can you just try connecting your headset a little closer to the computer? Your sound is coming off a little staticky.
Sure. Thanks, Ozzy. Can you?
Okay. While Jerry's figuring that out, Susan, do you want to read the one of the next questions, please?
Ozzy, did you just ask me to read a question?
Yeah, we lost Jerry's.
Jerry's audio. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay. All right, let's see. Okay, so one question gentleman asked, are you telling me this webinar is only for PG&E customers? Is there a different one for Edison customers? I'm just trying to understand how I fit in here.
Oh, I can answer that one. So the updates are relevant to all customers on the other categories, for example, the customer energy portal and the energy programs. But in terms of the rates portion of the presentation where the calculator was demonstrated, yes, this tool and these selection options are for PG&E customers only. Sorry if that was not at the top of the presentation or the portion on the rates, but it is for the enrolled customers in the PG&E portion of this 3CE service territory. And everything else is applicable to all customers.
Thank you, Lena. Okay, can you actually also answer another question? I'm a NEM customer and my true up this year was a negative 437 kilowatt hours. So how does that calculate into the $200 in credit in the generation charges? So could we talk a little bit about how he chooses which path and what that means again for a NEM customer?
So the calculator really doesn't go into net surplus compensation. It just gives you an overview or an understanding of what one summer bill and one winter bill would look like. If you would like someone to do a cost benefit analysis with you of what an entire year would look like, the recommendation would be that you call our call center and they can pull up your information, go ahead and put together a little report and then send that over to you. That's kind of a more question specific to your account only. And so it's going to vary depending on your usage, whether it's summer or winter that you had that excess production or generation take place in terms of what dollar value would actually apply to the bill. So the tool is not designed to calculate net surplus compensation. It is only designed to help you evaluate whether seasonal flat rate makes sense for you. But the call center representatives can put together a more detailed little spreadsheet to help answer that question for you.
And that it's a follow-up on that. You had an anonymous who said, I don't understand the distinction that you're drawing between NEM, between seasonal and default. And so,
okay, I can answer that. I'm sorry for the confusion. So default just means you just want to stay with your current existing billing setup with your rate plan that you have. So whatever your rate plan you have, you just have whatever the new rates are for 2022 on that rate plan. You would change nothing. What seasonal flat rate means, similar to those customers who may have a tiered rate on the PG&E side, it just means that we've said there's one rate per kilowatt hour in the summer and one rate per kilowatt hour in the winter. And it's not tied to what your time of use rate plan may be. Just that no matter what time of day it is, we are charging one rate. One rate that's a summer rate and one rate that's a winter rate, and that's it. So a straight kilowatt hour by kilowatt hour, same rate. I hope that helps.
thank you, Lena. Another question. So when do my rates change? I'm a CCE customer. And so is it October 1st or January 1st? I'm confused.
January 2022. And there was a slide on that a little bit earlier in the presentation that you are making a rate, you're making a choice on how you want your rates to be billed in 2022 with 3CE. Because it takes a couple of bill cycles for that change to be put in place. That's why the deadline is at the end of October to make that selection.
Thanks, Lena. We have multiple ways of them asking about the monthly credit because they're, the NEM credit under default is different than the NEM under seasonal. And so when we post this webinar, we'll make sure that this information.
Yeah, I was going to say, to make it a little bit simpler for those who have questions about that, because that's once again a net surplus compensation question versus a rate selection question. We do have 2 webinars. So our next month's energy update and the following month that are going to be dedicated exclusively for the solar customers. So we can dig deeper into solar specific questions that go outside of the calculator tool in those particular webinars. But yes, because one of the options, the seasonal flat rate, allows you to receive full retail credit for your excess energy instead of just waiting till the end of the year to get net surplus compensation. There is a difference there, and whether or not you choose one versus the other is going to be really specific to how you use energy. For customers that typically have excess generation throughout the year, but usually still have additional charges, whether that be transmission distribution charges, whether that be gas charges, whether that be your monthly interconnection charges, because maybe you're a NIM 2.0 customer. Those are all things that excess can be applied to, because it's a credit on your total bill, not just on your CCCE charges. So it really is going to require a more detailed conversation for NIM customers to kind of dig into some of the different case scenarios that you may have as an individual to determine whether or not you want one versus the other.
Lena, I have one more question. If I'm a CCE customer, currently one of our customers, why did I receive a notice from PG&E about some new rate options and some time of use stuff and some residential stuff?
That is a very good question, because PG&E is sending notifications about their new time of use rates. During the entire year of 2021, commercial customers had their transition in the spring. Residential customers are going in October, and they are shifting customers from some rates that they are basically closing into time of use. So they are sending out notifications because there are groups of customers, for example, who may have what they call a legacy rate, meaning that it's a rate that is closed, but you would like to keep it, and they're giving a window of opportunity to do that. So you can log in and say, hey, I want to stay with my current rate. I know I have one as a solar customer. I have an E6 rate that's going away, but I still want my last 2 years, right, to keep it. You have to log into your PG&E account or call PG&E and ask them questions about those rate options. But if you're comfortable logging in and using your online account, then you can go there, see what rate plan you have currently, and also determine there if you want to change your rates. There's two things that might be getting used a little bit interchangeably here, because I can see it in some of the questions that are popping up. PG&E side, when they ask you to choose your rate, they're talking about what's called a rate tariff, and that's whether you're E1 or B10 or time of use C, or you have an EV plan. And what we're talking about is how you want your energy from 3CE to be billed to you, whether that's in the traditional structure that mirrors exactly how you have it with PG&E, or whether you want seasonal flat rates. So we're talking about kind of a mechanism for billing our charges, or a structure for billing our charges. PG&E is asking you whether or not you want to make changes to your rates. And they have tools on their website as well to help you make that decision.
What are the call center hours that you're showing on the screen?
Since we're in enrollment period, people can actually call from 9 to 7. And then they have weekend hours that are 9 to 5.
9 a.m. to 7 p.m.?
Yes. And then on the
Right.
weekend, 9 to 5.
Okay, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and weekend 9 to 5. Perfect. Okay, keep typing stuff in here. All right. Does the calculator allow an EV customer to compare their cost versus the default or flat rate?
Yes. But it's not going to tell you what, it's not a EV rate or flat rate or default. Your EV rate is the default rate. So just to kind of clarify that, the default rate is whatever rate plan you have selected with PG&E. So your EV rate is what you will see on our page, categorized as default. And then when you make that comparison to seasonal flat rate, you are in fact making that comparison to your current EV rate. But you're not changing from your PG&E rate. You're just saying, I want you to bill my EV rate differently on your side of the bill. Teresa asked, why is PG&E sending notices to CCCE customers?
Yep.
Because you are all shared customers. You are PG&E customers and CCCE customers. When you started to receive service from CCCE, PG&E still handles the billing, and handles transmission and distribution, meaning that we purchase the electricity, PG&E is still in charge of delivering it to you. So now instead of one person handling all aspects of your electric services, now you technically have two. So that's why PG&E is sending notices to you. You are still a PG&E customer.
All right, so can we talk a little bit or clarify then one more time? Because I have another request. Says, does it mean I have to do 2 requests, one to PG&E and one to Central Coast? Or, so could you explain what goes where for the customer? Who do they ask what of? Okay,
so PG&E is sending you notices about whether or not you want to be transitioned to the new time of use rates, and you would make that decision with PG&E. So whether you do or you don't, whatever decision you make with PG&E, we're downstream. So PG&E then tells us what your decision has been made. If you stay where you are, then you stay where you are. If you change your rate, then we change your rate. But when you're looking at the calculator is saying in the default column is whatever the rate is you selected with PG&E. whatever that may be, whether you make any changes at all, at any time that you're a shared customer with us, PG&E notifies us when you make a change on that side. You only have to make changes on our side with us, should you decide that you would like to have with that rate plan that you have selected, billed in the seasonal flat rate versus billed in the default way that the rate is currently being billed.
Okay, I'm gonna go with, this is a much more detailed question. My current PG&E rate is ETOUD. The question I wanted to know was, is there a difference between the current peak hours or time of use with PG&E and a difference with Central Coast hours?
No. Whatever rate plan you selected and the associated hours with that rate plan, however it's structured, those are the same hours on our side.
So what'll happen is if I'm a ETOU, I will continue to see that on my PG&E bill on that page, because PG&E provides the billing and I'm tied to that rate.
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Thank you. I'm scrolling back up looking for some more.
Somebody
While you
asked
do
what
that,
can be done to
Susan, could I
motivate
jump in?
PG&E to lower electric rates. Certainly.
Yes,
I will
please.
mute.
Please. Jump in.
Lena, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, we're getting a lot of clarifying questions about when this presentation will be given again with a focus on NEM customers.
Ozzy, can you put that slide back up on the upcoming webinars? We can keep it on that slide so folks can write that down.
Thanks so much.
And so if Alina, so that having that slide, so understanding what my option is to choose between flat or seasonal rate, seasonal flat or time of use default, sorry. Then I could attend another one of these webinars here. And then the NEM webinars that are farther down, what are those for? Because we're getting a lot of NEM questions. And so someone was concerned that, well, if I need to make my choice by October 31st, but you have your NEM webinar in November, how do I do that?
So we call it the same thing. So understanding your rate option, so it will come up again. So if you have questions in the meantime and you don't want to wait, like you feel like it's really urgent and you don't want to wait for any upcoming webinars, you can always call the call center and they will walk you through your options, walk you through the calculations, and help you. Even if you want to initiate any changes, they can also help you with that over the phone. So you don't have to wait. You can call the call center if the information you need cannot be found in the calculator, and you have questions that are specific to your usage, your rate plan, especially if you're a NEM customer who's been with us long enough for us to kind of go back and look at your historical usage. We even have interval data if you have to get that detailed, and the call center rep can help you answer those questions.
All right. Now I have a little more detailed or a little more pointed question. So if my rate is actually my rate class is chosen, like if I'm a EV or a other rate, that's with PG&E, correct?
Correct.
And then the rate selection, or what this webinar is about choosing that, how is that different than my PG&E EV rate or my TOU 8 rate or things like, how does that, let's be a little more clarifying, because we're
yeah, I'm trying to make it a little bit less complicated.
That would be great. Thank you.
Choose your rate on the PG&E side. That is the rate that you have with us. All you're selecting here, or not selecting, because you do not have to take any action, is whether or not you want to change your billing to seasonal flat rate. Otherwise, you do nothing. You just stay exactly where you are. PG&E tells us what your rate is, and we bill you according to that rate. Lee, you asked, are you automatically a customer of PG&E and 3CE? If you received an email from us about this webinar, then the answer is yes. That means that you live in a city or county that elected to transition to 3CE services for the customers in their community, because we only sent this notification out to customers that are currently enrolled with us. And Doug, we actually answered your question live, that you can call the call center and they'll walk you through that. And the upcoming webinars for SCE customers. So actually, because SCE NIM customers don't enroll until January, just to make things even more complicated, there's actually a separate schedule for customers who haven't enrolled yet. So Ravid, it looks like you may be in SCE, and as a solar customer in Southern California Edison, you don't begin service with us until January. So you will actually receive notifications in the mail inviting you to specific webinars and workshops and information sessions that will be about the upcoming enrollment for Southern California Edison customers in January. So you are just ahead of the game by joining some of the other public webinars being offered.
So a question that for a little more for aimed at Jerry. So are the numbers that were shown on the rate calculator, is that for the whole bill or only for my CCE customer portion of the bill?
Can you hear me clearly, Susan?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So that is just comparing the generation portion of the bill, because this selection for default and flat only applies to your the generation portion of your bill.
Thank you, Jerry. I snuck that when you were talking. I snuck that in the notes. All right, off it goes. All right. A gentleman says, I'm just having a solar and battery system installed, so I actually don't have any historical data. So how do will the rate calculator help me actually figure out which rate plan I should pick?
If you don't have any historical usage, I think the best bet is to call the call center and they can help walk you through an individual rate comparison. And so I think that would be the best option for now, is just to call our call center.
Oswaldo, could you actually go to that page in the presentation so our participants can actually see that information? So thank you. All right. Perfect. All right, let's see if there's any more. Oh, and so Jerry, is this the same number? If I was actually in Edison territory, because we have a couple people here that are actually being served by Edison, and so they joined this webinar, not realizing it's PG&E territory. And so is there a number for them to call for if they're an Edison customer, so they can help be served?
Yes, give me one moment and I will pull it up. How about we'll let you know when I have the number pulled up.
Thanks. Perfect. All right, let's go. Let's see. Okay, let's see what else we're going. Okay, so I have a question. I don't actually know what this individual is asking. Does the rate comparison tool take into account the new additional monthly charge that was presented in the previous webinar? And so I'm not sure what the question is. I'm going to actually ask the individual to expand a bit, because I'm not sure what previous webinar they were talking about.
Susan, I can kind of make a reference. At one point in the rate design process, it was considered having a monthly charge, but our community advisory council, as well as our policy board, advocated against that and said that customers and residents did not want that. And we, as a public agency, so in our rate design, we do not have a standard bill or bill charge anymore.
That's right. Good. Okay, I typed that in. And so an individual said that the calculator's kind of not working correctly for the moment. So I'm going to give her the 800 number and have the email so she can actually call the call center. All right. And then I have a customer who says, I'm actually in San Luis Obispo County. Will there be help getting battery storage systems in our county? And so this is more of an energy programs question. And then one more particular piece. If you're actually an unincorporated San Luis Obispo, you're not served by us. And so if you're in the city of San Luis Obispo, we serve you. But the county, we actually do not at this time. And so it depends on where you're located. And then also as far as battery storage systems, when you go to our website, we have on the main page, there's a drop-down section called Energy Programs. And part of the benefit of being a Central Coast Community Energy customer is you get to be served by both PG&E and by us, which means you can participate in both programs. So if there's a EV program or a battery or a solar program at Edison or PG&E, you can participate. And if we have a program, you can also participate because you're served by both of us. And so I always suggest to individuals to, depending on what they do for a living and if they're looking for their home or their business or such, to go to the energy programs page. It's a drop-down menu, and you can see all the different kinds of programs that we've crafted and created. What really is fun to know about is our calendar year ends in actually like another week. And so we've crafted and created all new programs. We look at our programs through the year and make them better for the next year. And so you can go to that page and take a look at our energy programs and see what makes sense for your home. For example, if you actually are interested in renting or leasing an EV, not just buying, but you can rent or lease also, we do have a program for that. And also if you're interested in actually putting a charging plug in your garage, we have a program for that. So we're supporting our customers in our region into moving towards, the electrified transportation and less greenhouse gases and a much healthier environment, while we're still actually bringing those benefits back into the community. All right, let's see what else is here.
Then I'd like to hop in. So
Thank
if you
you.
are attending this webinar and you are a shared customer with SCE, you can call that same call center number and it will ask you who your shared investor-owned utility partner is with Central Coast Community Energy. So in the call tree, you'll just have to select that you are served by SCE, and it will transfer you over to the call center representative. So one number, super clean and easy that way.
That's right. We actually make it very simple for them to actually get their questions answered. All right. And so I'll actually type that in because a gentleman said I'm actually in Edison territory, so we'll make sure that he gets that too.
I want to answer one of these questions about NEM customers choosing between seasonal flat and the default rate. So the biggest difference between seasonal flat and default for our NEM customers is that on the default, your net surplus compensation, essentially the process is going to stay the same. You still receive it. I believe our net surplus compensation rate currently is 0.047 cents per kilowatt hour. And the general process would be the same. However, for NEM customers who choose seasonal flat rate, they would have traditional net surplus compensation. Instead, they would receive a monthly credit, and the value of that monthly credit is set at retail value per kilowatt hour of excess generation. However, one of the main differences is that that monthly credit is applied back on your bill for either or both of the generation and transmission costs. So it could be applied to your entire energy bill, but you would not receive a check like net surplus compensation customers do. Instead, that monthly credit would compound. So you're still getting all the value of the credits that you provide stays on your electricity bill, and it compounds. So the default or the seasonal flat rate is only available for 3 years, and then all of our customers will transition on to a default rate. So if you are an excess generator and you receive a lot of credits, that will stay on your bill and compound. So you're not ever going to lose it. It's not going to zero out. And then after the 3 years that process, you would be switched over to the default rate plan, and your net surplus compensation would go back to how it is traditionally.
See a raised hand. I don't know if it's an old question that maybe already got answered.
So there's
Okay,
one.
Brad.
Which one?
Brad Imamura.
I think that was answered. I only have 4 open.
Oh, no, I said a raised hand, not a question.
Raised hand. Oh,
Raised
I'm sorry.
hand. Yeah.
I'm sorry. All right. So, oops, we got 2 raised hands. All right, hold on. Okay,
And we have time for only one more question before we have to close out.
yeah, we're at time. All right. Okay, let's see if I can find the raised hand and let them ask their question.
It's Brad, so you could probably just do a search.
There it is, Brad. I've unmuted you.
Hey, how you doing? You got
Hey,
me.
Brad.
You had to unmute me. Thanks for the presentation. I really appreciate it. Just a quick question. I did answer it or ask it in the question. Is there any influence that anyone has for PG&E to reduce their electric delivery charges? Because I'm looking at my current bill, dated September 14th, and the delivery charges are more than twice the amount of my energy electric charge. It's just ridiculous. So it really does negate what you think you're saving, over the long term because of your monthly bill.
So that's a really interesting one, Brad. So there's 2 parts to that. The first part is that, believe it or not, what PG&E has been charging you for transmission and distribution, it is typically about 2/3 of your bill statement. Even when you're a bundled customer, meaning that you don't have a CCA, they do have a line item page on page 2 of your energy statement, unless you're a solar customer. You only see it when you're on your annual trip with a solar customer. But for non-solar customers, on page 2, they have a line item breakdown of everything that's included in your charges. And so those items are there even when you're bundled, but you do have an opportunity to take your questions and your concerns. The California Public Utilities Commission has public hearings. And so when PG&E posts their rate increases, for example, the one that was posted for 2022, you can go and express your concerns if you have any about the way that the rates are changing. I know there were a couple of references in the questions also to the way that the solar programs are changing at the state level, at least. And you can go, and that's really where we have our place to go and provide our public comment and our ratepayer impacts. and get them heard and part of and be part of that conversation.
Yeah, can you also confirm, I heard for those people, and we were considering it to have our own, solar panels installed. But now I hear these IOUs have lobbied enough to the CPUC to have a charge for people who have their own solar panels that are generating their own electricity of $67 a month. Is there any truth to that rumor? Have you heard that?
Well, they asked, but they didn't get it. So the charge that you have right now, that for most customers is somewhere between $10 and $14. They asked to be able to increase it. And you've seen in other states, less solar friendly states like Nevada and Arizona, for example, they were successful in getting those things across, which may encourage, other IOUs to give it a try. But that hasn't actually occurred so far. It didn't get any steam.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you, Brad. I'm going to mute you back up. All right. It is just a few minutes after 7. First of all, I want to say thank you to every one of you who joined us. Great questions. Really, really robust set of a Q&A session. So thank you very much. We will make sure that this webinar is posted on our website. If you're interested in more information, please go look at our website, okay? And on the very top page, you'll see a couple of different buckets or little drop-down menus. And one of those is the account and services, and that actually has the cost of service rate structure. So that's where you're going to find a lot of information, be able to go there. And then the next drop down is actually the energy programs that we talked about. So we had some questions about battery storage and we talked about EV and such. And so go there, because as we continue to unroll our what we call our 2022 energy programs, though they get enrolled soon in the next month or so, that's where you can find lots of information about electrification, EVs, and all sorts of stuff. We want to say thank you. We appreciate every conversation. Please look at the information on your screen right now. That's the email and actually the 800 number for our call center. You also see this information show up on your bill with the Central Coast Community Energy page. And so feel free to reach out and ask us questions. We appreciate you, and we appreciate that we're able to serve you. Thank you very much. Have a good night.